Hello, my name is Jen Mott, and I am a Spanish teacher at Mason High School out in Mason, Ohio. University of Cincinnati has asked me to speak to you a little bit about classroom management, specifically with setting up my classroom. There are a few things I would like to point out in my classroom when keeping classroom management in mind of how I set it up, especially at the beginning of a year. At Mason High School, for example, we have 3 beginnings of the year because we have trimester schedule. So I'm always trying to think of better ways to set up my classroom and to start in a fresh and different way so that my students will be best prepared to succeed in the classroom. So the first thing I would like to point out to you is the way the desks are set up. The space in the middle of the room allows for students to be more active. I can have circle time as much as they're high school students. They actually do enjoy getting together, and at the beginning of the year we might talk about our summers, how everyone was doing, what they did over the weekend, and I find that that really helps to build a classroom community. For my class especially, because they need to be communicative. It's a Spanish classroom. They need to be able to speak to each other and learn about each other. So it's very helpful to have that middle space rather than rows across. I do want to point out that there is no one right way to set up your classroom. It has to be what works for your students, what works for your culture at your school. And for mine, like I said, especially for Spanish, it's very helpful to have this space in the middle of the area. I do like that there are rows, though, so that when they are in the actual seats, they are able to pair up easily, or it is much more orderly, and they're not randomly spaced throughout the classroom. So the desk arrangement is very purposeful. I am very thoughtful about it because I want to think what will help my students best succeed in my Spanish classroom. The next thing I would like to point out to you is the ways that I am able to anticipate or predict student questions that they might have throughout the class time. One is that you'll see these folders that I have at the beginning of the classroom. The folders allow for me to put any papers that I do throughout the day in the respective folder. You'll see they're labeled Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So anything I do on Monday, I then put in the Monday folder. I put any extras in that folder. And then on Tuesday, if a student comes in, instead of coming up to me and asking, what did we do yesterday, I expect that they will go to that folder first, take out any worksheets or assignments they may have missed, and then come to me and say, okay, now how can I do this? What should I do? Should I stay after school? I see that I missed this. And they're able to ask very specific questions rather than, what did we do? Because we always know we did something, even if a student is gone. These folders are very important, and I stress that importance at the beginning of the year or the trimester. So on the first day, I show them to the students, and I explain the reasoning for them, and they seem to find them very helpful. And then the next day, I continue to stress their importance. And then the next day, I'll mention them again. And maybe the first time a student has been missing or absent from a class, then the next day I will make an example of that student and show them where to go, or ask them, do you know where to go? Because they should already know at that point. I will then direct them to the folders, they will take out their things, and it's just a very helpful and seamless way of getting necessary papers to them. It also allows me to focus more on what we're doing that day rather than thinking about, oh, what did we do yesterday? Because as you know, that sometimes can be difficult to remember very quickly or on the spot. Another thing that I do to alleviate student questions is I will always have the schedule written on the board for the day. So you'll see horario means schedule in Spanish, and so I have the schedule for the first day of school written on the board because, especially at our school, we have a different schedule almost every day. And I don't want to take class time to try to explain to students which schedule are we on, what time does the bell end, what time do I have lunch, anything like that. That can take away from class time. Again, it's something very mindless. You don't really think about it. You wouldn't really consider it, but it is something that can take away from class time or student learning. And so I always just have it written on the board so they can't even ask. It's just there, and they can always reference it if they need to. It's something I found very helpful to do rather than looking up the schedule or trying to figure out their answer to their question. Now the more important part of the board that you'll see is my agenda and class objectives for the week, or what's coming up the following week. You'll see that I have the days of the week set up, okay, so I have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, miércoles, jueves, and viernes, and on those days I have an agenda for each day. Very simple, short and sweet, it cuts to the chase, but it allows the students to see what we are doing that day and maybe any homework assignments they will have for that night. What I've found to be helpful is writing the homework in a different color, because inevitably they want to know what they actually need to do at the end of that day. And so having that homework in green, as you see, is very helpful for me. You'll then see by the end of this week, we will be able to, and you'll see those 3 objectives. That's an easy way. If I find that if I write the word objectives, they might not know, but that's exactly what it is they are objectives. We will be able to do this. They're very simple for the first week. I want everyone to know each other because I want to show them that it is important that they know who is in their class, that they're able to communicate, because again, Spanish, they need to be oral. They need to be speaking to each other, and they need to be comfortable with each other doing that. And so I find that if that's an objective, they take that more seriously. The other thing you'll see is that I have in red whatever's coming up next week. So the following week they'll have their first quiz. VQ is just a verb quiz. And they're able to see that that's coming up, that they need to be able to do that. They need to study those 10 vocab words so that they can plan accordingly for the weekend. That's something very helpful to have up on the board every single day. I'll have the whole week. And actually what I do is I take a picture of it at the end of the week and I post it to their class, their Edline page, so that they're able to see what they did all week long in case they forget, in case they missed a day, and that's been very helpful as well. Another thing you'll find on the board that I say over and over is understanding classroom rules and procedures. I don't use the word rules, but I just want them to know that they have these procedures that they need to follow when they're in my classroom, so everything can go fairly easily and quickly, so that again we can focus on the actual learning. So one of those procedures I already talked about is the folders that I put the papers in when they miss a day. Another one is that in the back of the room you'll see these cubbies that I have, and those cubbies, I explained to them, are very important as well, because in one of them is where they will return any papers to me to be graded. So I have one slot for each bell. I show them where the return slot is for their bell, and then they know that anytime they have done an assignment and they're ready to turn it in, they can just go straight there and put it in their respective slot. That saves a lot of time in them asking me, where do I put this? What should I do with this? Or it also takes away from them putting it at my desk or coming up to me so that I can actually answer student questions about Spanish. You'll see the other slots are very helpful for me too, because then I can put the other papers into return slots and it keeps it very organized. I find that organization is one of the biggest things that you can do, that you have control of, to make sure that classroom management runs well. Because when you're organized, that translates over to what you're doing for the students and the way you're portraying your classroom to your students, and it's very helpful, and they don't miss a beat once you're organized. So I find that these cubbies are a helpful way for me to stay organized and stay on top of things. Another simple thing or way that I am able to predict any student questions is you'll see the hole punch and the tissues on that bookshelf in the back. That allows for students to be able to get up in the middle of the class, blow their nose, hole punch their paper, without even asking me, asking permission, disrupting class. They're able to just go ahead and do that in the back of the class. You'll also see the books stacked back there. I keep those back there in case we ever need to reference them. In our class, we don't use textbooks, so they don't need them underneath their desks to take away more space from them. They don't need to carry them around school, but it is helpful to have them out clearly so that they can access those. Along with other books, you'll see on the bookshelf I also do have Spanish and English dictionaries, so they know where those are, they know that they can go get those at any time, and that those are for them to use during class time. So we have talked about some ways to establish some effective routines and procedures, as well as being able to predict any student questions that might come up and change those habits by the way you set up your classroom. It is important to set up your classroom keeping management in mind from day one. Again, I want to encourage you to find your own way of doing things, so that one that you're most comfortable with, so that that translates into students being most successful. Pick and choose from other teachers, from what you hear, so that you're able to pick what you know is going to work for your students and your classroom. Thank you very much.